To manage political conflict, one thing we can do is to learn to think dialectically. Now, dialectically means thinking in opposites. What could be more opposite than political conflict? You have two people, two parties on different sides who take different ideologies, thinking in opposites. So here's an example. One party might say, one group of people might say, the fetus is a life. The fetus is a form of life. The other party says, women need to have control over their bodies. Those two positions would at least seem to conflict. They're opposite. They contradict each other. Don't fear the contradiction. Instead, try to resolve it. Try to create a new solution, a new way of feeling, a new way of thinking that incorporates whatever's true in either one of these positions into a new idea, a new partially shared idea that helps to resolve the conflict. It can be done. It is very difficult. It is not easy, but it is possible. Let's play around with how that is the case. So, dialectical thinking, in a political conflict or in any other conflict, we disagree. So as a result, we argue. You're wrong, out of touch, stupid, crazy, evil, which we have today anyway in our polarized society. And the other person responds with the very intelligent, no, you're out of touch, you're wrong, you're stupid, you're crazy, you're evil. We argue. I defend my position, you defend yours. If I'm right, you must be wrong. If you're right, I must be wrong. And I risk humiliation in the process. But remember Tevye from Fiddler on the Roof. What happened in that film, in that play? So the radical comes. He says, you should know what's going on in the outside world, if you recall. First peasant says, why should I break my hand about the outside world? Let the outside world break its own hand. Tevye, the milkman, points out that the peasant is right. Yes, he is right. But then the radical comes back with, you can't close your eyes to the world. Tevye says, he's right. And then second peasant says, he's right and he's right. They can't both be right. To which Tevye says, you know, you are also right. Now, how can everybody be right at the same time? You look at this scenario here and you see, in fact, that there's a grain of truth in one person to what they say. There's a grain of truth in what the other person has to say. You see that they disagree, but that there's something that is right about each one of the person's positions. Very difficult. So, dialectical thinking. How can you both be right at the same time? Happens more often than you think. And if we could figure out how each person could be right at the same time, we might be able to come up with solutions to problems that we have not thought of before. Here, let's take a look at the clever princess. Here's a story. A prince and a princess fell in love. The king, the princess's father, did not want the two to marry. The king said that he would only allow the couple to marry if the princess went to the faraway forest and performed a series of small tasks. Specifically, she had to return from the forest both walking and riding, naked and dressed, during the day and in the night, while arriving simultaneously both in and out of the castle, and arriving both with and without a gift. Because, of course, it is impossible for two opposites to be true at the same time, the king was confident that the princess would fail at each of these tasks and thus prevent the desired marriage. Of course, the daughter, the princess, was not only clever, she's the dialectical daughter. She understands dialectical processes. She understands how two things can be true at the same time. And so she goes back to the faraway forest, and she comes back both naked and clothed. She's wearing a fishnet. She is naked and clothed at the same time. She is walking and riding. She is riding a skateboard and walking it forward as she is doing the maneuver. She is coming day and night, at the light and the dark, at dusk. She's arriving both in and out of the castle. She's partway in and partway out, sleeping at the doorstep, and of course giving a gift both with, coming with and without a gift, the gift being a a crow or bird that the second he gives it to the king flies away. We don't see that the opposites that we often see can in fact be resolved, and that the opposites are not always opposite, but it takes thinking outside of the confines of the opposition. It takes thinking outside the box. It is possible, not easy, not always possible, but it's possible to integrate opposites. We simply need to learn not to fear them. Contradictions can often be transcended, like I just showed you. Not perfectly, but more often than we think. Let's give some examples. Here's one. This is the one we started with. Tough one. The fetus is a form of life, says one person, one party. Women need to have control over their bodies. Now, the debates that go on in the abortion issue are remarkable. They're full of all types of false accusations to the other side. So the person who believes that the fetus is a form of life is very threatened by the idea that women need to have control over their bodies, perhaps. And they say things like, oh, you want to kill the baby. Not likely. It is very unlikely that there is anyone who approves of abortion who wants to kill a baby. They don't think of it, the fetus as a baby. They don't think of it as killing or the like. That's a wrong assumption that this person is making. And the other way around as well. You don't want women to control their bodies. You want to control women becomes the accusation leveled at the person who believes that the fetus is a form of life. But what happens if we begin to dispel those fear-based accusations? And that's what they are. They're fear-based. They're attempts to discredit the other so that I can make my own position be known. I can garner votes. I can get support by showing that the other person is out of touch or to be afraid or immoral or evil or some such thing. Is it possible to see some element of truth in each of these positions? Well, I think it's actually possible to see more than an element of truth in each of these positions. Let's look at the one on the left. The fetus is a form of life. Well, note what the phrase says. It doesn't say the fetus is a baby, a living baby. It says the fetus is a form of life. Fetus is a form of life. It is living tissue, to be sure. Now, can we not see that as a possible level of agreement? We're not going to necessarily agree. Everybody's not going to necessarily agree that the fetus is a person or a baby or the like, but we can at least acknowledge that there is life there. There's life, not a baby, not a person, although people may believe that is the case. Do women need to have control over their bodies? I would be very, very surprised if some people were to say, even those who agree with limiting abortion, to getting rid of abortion, that women should not have control over their bodies. There's obvious truths in both sides. So, whereas we might think that these two sides may be in conflict, they're not necessarily in conflict. If we look and we treat each side with respect, try to understand the truth of the other without denying what we believe, we might be able to see that the conflict does not have to be feared. We don't need to fear the contradiction. We might be able to come up with something new. Well, here's one. Don't fear the contradiction, try to resolve it. Now, this solution that I put on the board does not resolve fully the abortion issue. It doesn't resolve the ideological issue. Frankly, it steps outside of it. And it says, you're not going to agree about whether or not the fetus is a baby or not, or maybe you can with enough discussion, don't know. Maybe that's possible to come up with agreement, but let's start somewhere. How about we both agree? If we both agree that the fetus is a form of life, and I can't imagine that there are many pro-abortion people who like abortion and want it to be something that is frequent. A lot of people who have abortions have trouble with it, even though they think it's the right thing to do. Well, don't outlaw abortion, but do find ways to reduce them. This bifurcation here, it brings people apart. But what's the common part of it? The common part of it is that everybody wants to preserve life. They have different definitions of what life might mean. Might mean, and many, if not most, people would like to reduce abortions. Now, I don't have a solution here. There are many possible ones, but the fact that you cannot fear the contradiction and begin to find a resolution of it may not please this side or this side fully, but you're going to get more closeness. You're going to get constructive dialogue. It's a start. Here's another one. The gun issue. I want to use guns for self-protection. Guns are dangerous. Regulate them. These may be in conflict. Don't fear the contradiction. Now, what do we do in the gun debate? We have massive debates over whether or not the Second Amendment protects guns, gun ownership, or does not. You're very unlikely to get agreement on that issue as long as the issue is either or. You're not going to get agreement on that issue. What if you didn't try to debate that issue, but got to the actual, real, true, underlying concerns, needs of each party on each side? Well, people want to be able to use guns for self-protection. They want to be able to use guns for recreation. They want to be able to use guns because they like them. Okay? There are some people who want to use guns for other reasons to oppose the government as well. But let's just start with this. I want to use guns for self-protection, for hunting, to preserve my way of life, or what have you. Guns are dangerous. Regulate them. These two things may seem to be in conflict. Okay? But wait, is there any agreement that you can find? Any truth in each side? Well, how about this? Most gun owners, at least in the United States, are probably people who respect guns very much. They respect gun safety very much. They're not going out there and using them to kill people in any great numbers, the people who are owning guns. So it may be possible to use guns for self-protection while at the same time respecting those guns. Guns are dangerous. Regulate them. This person over on the left may not agree with the regulation, but do they agree that guns are dangerous? Bet you they do. That's why they respect them. Resolve the issue. Don't fear the contradiction. Try to resolve it. Teach responsible gun culture. Enforce responsible gun ownership. The second you recognize each other's position, the second you recognize each other's needs and you take them seriously and you care about them, now you're going to get the possibility of coming together. If the person on the right doesn't have to fear that the person on the left is trying to take their guns away, which is what they want. They want to hold those guns. And if the person on the gun regulation person believes that the person who owns the guns wants to help reduce violence, well, you should be able to find novel ways of making that happen. Here's one right here. Okay? It's a possibility. It's a start. Frankly, from my perspective at least, the only way to get people to not kill each other with guns is to create an ethos of responsible gun ownership, of responsible conflict resolution between people, and the like, at least in the United States. Another issue. Immigrants, the process of immigration, the problem of integration. Immigrants threaten my culture, some people say. I want to help people fleeing from oppression from other countries, other people say. These may seem to be in conflict. Don't fear the contradiction. Embrace them. You don't need to demonize either side. People who believe that immigrants threaten my culture, they're not necessarily racist people. They're simply people who have a way of life, who when we see somebody coming in, it's perfectly understandable that we can understand the fear of someone. Whether we agree with it or not, we could certainly understand that people may fear immigrants for changing their cultural ways of life. They may fear immigrants, right or wrong, for threatening jobs. They may fear immigrants because they feel as though that the social infrastructure is going to be transformed. That does not necessarily mean that those people are racist or what have you, ethnocentric. and helping people flee from oppression. That is a very noble belief, a noble sentiment. Do people on the right disagree with that notion? Maybe they agree with that notion, but feel as though that it's unsustainable. You don't have to fear the contradiction. Can both those things happen at the same time? Maybe. Well, how do you resolve the issue? Well, you promote legal immigration. More than that, you create economic enclaves for immigrants. Think outside the box. Think crazy solutions. Here's a crazy one. Immigrants can come into their vast land opportunities in the United States, cities that need people. How about organizing them into conclaves that can help people produce and contribute to our economy? Help oppressed people in their native countries to fix the problems that are there. Over and over and over again, you can come up with many, many, many possible solutions once you stop fearing the contradiction. The contradictions are there. Try to work around them and try to resolve them. It's possible. It's not impossible. Is it easy? No. Another example. Economy. Some people will say the economy is bad. Prices for basic staples are high. Eggs are high, whatever. Other people will say the economy is good. The stock market is thriving. It's doing well. It's doing better and better and better. These two ideas may be in conflict. Directly conflict. Some people saying the economy is bad. The economy is good. Well, don't fear the contradiction. Figure it out. How can both those things be true at the same time? Well, the economy affects different people in different ways. For people who have invested in the stock market, things are going very well. For people who are poor and who do not have that sort of thing, they're going to be really hit hard by the increasing prices of basic stuff. The economy affects people in different ways. Provide tax subsidies for struggling people. Many other solutions are possible, but they only become possible once people start to stop fearing the contradiction and work with each other without having to fear that they're not going to get what they want. If you don't fear the contradiction, you look at it head on, look for the truth in what the other person is saying. On both sides, you might be able to come up with something further. Here, DEI. I want people to be hired on their merit, not race, gender, or what have you. I want to recruit people from marginalized groups. These may be in conflict. Don't fear the contradiction. Is it possible that you can do both at the same time? People who want to recruit people from marginalized groups and improve their lot in social life, they often believe in merit, and if they don't, they certainly can understand the concept of merit, equality, equity, the rest of it, and vice versa. People who believe in merit, they don't not want to in general promote the interests of marginalized groups. Don't fear the contradiction. Explore it. Don't discriminate against marginalized groups. We'll meet the needs of the person on the left. Invest in people from marginalized groups. We'll meet the needs of the people on the right. If you increase in education, invest in education, et cetera, you're going to raise the level of skill, et cetera. Well, of people from marginalized groups. While at the same time eliminating discrimination. You can do both at the same time. If it feels insulting to somehow say that people from marginalized groups, that education would help, and that feels somehow insulting, suggesting that's a problem, well, there are achievement gaps. Some people call them opportunity gaps, but the simple fact of the matter is that there are skill gaps. People can debate that issue, but the fact that there are skill gaps doesn't mean that groups are inherently different. It means that we have to invest in education and transforming the structures of society to bring people up to competitive levels. That's a way of thinking. Don't like it? Come up with another one. Deal with the contradictions. We do that, we get a chance. Dialectical thinking. Just because two ideas are opposed doesn't mean that one is right and one is wrong. There could be elements of both that are right. Exploit those try to get at the next level of shared novel understanding. I prize freedom of speech. I want to protect people from hate speech. These may be in conflict. Don't fear the contradiction. Look for a way to resolve it. Don't restrict speech. Instead, create a culture of respect and resilience, both respecting each other, caring about each other, and being resilient to what they have to say. You can do both at the same time. Find out how. Dialectical thinking works. It works by exploring where the conflict is, trying to find the truth in each position, and building something new that both parties can agree upon. It's not easy, but it's possible.